So what you doing, man?
I'm hanging out.
Just hanging out?
Yeah. It's the only comic I've ever known who volunteers to go to radio. He just like an intern almost. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I want you to
Some
play
dedication.
Too. I mean, can you?
Yeah. If do we have? Can he share a mic?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's
absolutely.
do it. Yeah, right. Let's do it.
Dude, man, I think you're the funniest guy to ever come out of Ohio.
I appreciate that. I really do, because some funny guys have come out.
There's some
of
funny-looking people that come out of Ohio.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that make you a Buckeye?
No. People always get disappointed that, I never knew the OHIO chant while I lived in Ohio. Like, people always yell. When people first started yelling that at me, I'm like, I don't know, what? What? And they're like, I-O, stupid. And I'm like, well, nobody cared when I lived here before. I was invisible to you people. But, I went to Kent State, so I resent people who go to, colleges with good teams. So, I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. I'm a very...
So does that make you a Browns fan, or are you going all the way Steelers?
Well, that's just, I grew up. I always clarify. I grew up a Cleveland Browns fan. That means the team that moved away to Baltimore, I liked that team. That was my team. But I even, when Belichick cut Bernie Kosar, I kind of was, I'm done with this. So I root for players instead of franchises. Mm-hmm. So yeah, right now I have a man crush on Tom Brady. So I would call myself a Patriots fan. Yeah.
Do you believe comedians are more in touch than newscasters on television?
I think that yes. We were, me and Byron were talking about this last night. Byron Bowers is he features for me. He's in Atlanta. He's from Atlanta.
What's going on?
But we were talking about how it's a comedian's job to be as honest as they can be. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain level of, you have to earn that right, though, with your audience. Like, I've noticed the more sort of, I don't want to say famous, but, more notoriety I get, like the more, I'm on TV and stuff like that, the more people trust me to be that honest. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing is, like, we're supposed to call it how we see it. That's what makes it funny. That's what makes it such a release for people, that that we can be that honest. Newscasters, on the other hand, are, they have an agenda, and they're trying to, they have a boss, and they have to appease depending on what news network they work for, and so they're going to be less honest because, comics, at the end of the day, comics are only working for themselves. Right. So, yeah, I guess probably we are.
Now, Byron, you being from Atlanta, CNN is rebuilding itself. If they came to you and said, we need you to kind of drop your comedic career and go CNN, would you do it?
I would, but being naturally funny, it would be the most controversial news station ever.
He would get fired really quick.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't last. Like you would do something to upset somebody by noon that it wouldn't go well. It wouldn't go well.
I'll report an accident and then go straight into it's a sale. It's a sale going on. I hope them people that got in that accident ain't in the way.
We've had a couple lawyer cards. Hey, by the way, I just had dinner with him last night.
It's weird, yeah. Like things like that. It's like when you're a comedian and you go to I went to L.A. years ago in 1999 from Ohio, and it's like you're kind of you're trying to make a name for yourself, and you're also, you just want to. My dream, for the longest time was I just don't want to have to cut grass anymore during the day. Mm-hmm. So, there are things along the way that you're like, man, I wish I didn't have to do that. Or things that maybe didn't look like. I did something that turned out to be good. I did a show on CMT that was it was called Mobile Home Disaster, and it only lasted a season because the economy crashed like right before the second season. But it was like, at first I was like, this does not sound like something I really want to do, because it sounds like a lot of people hugging me and like a lot of just it's very sappy and silly. But when I got there, it was like from the comedy standpoint, they let me do what I want, and then it was actually very, I guess, fulfilling. It sounds corny, but fulfilling to help people that were, some of those people were so, like, you ever meet those people who are so nice they make you feel bad about yourself? Like where you're just like, man, I need to do some volunteer work or something. Like, I mean, like I met this single dad with 5 boys, like that, they all lived in this cramped mobile home together. And I mean, they were like the nicest people I've ever met. And I'm like, it's like, it's very cool to be able to, actually affect their lives and help them. So we did 8 episodes of that, and 7 of the 8 families were very, I really felt good about.
It's kind of like the theory: you adopt a dog from the streets, and that's going to be the best dog you ever had.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was a you didn't expect it really, like to be as great as it was, but it we had one family that they I guess they sued the producers of the show. Because the lady was like an ex-carny, and I remember they had like a 4-bedroom mobile home, and one of the bedrooms, like they had 2 little kids who didn't have bedrooms. They slept on the floor of the parents' room, and they had a bunch of stray dogs that they picked up. Like so there was pee everywhere. Like literally, like we had to have those people in hazmat suits, like that movie Outbreak. Like come in there to strip out the carpet. But I remember that she had a whole bedroom devoted to those carnival stuffed animals. Like they were to the ceiling. And we threw them out because they had pee on them. And she sued the show for her stuffed animals. I'm like, lady, you got a washer and dryer and a refrigerator.
And a garden bathtub.
And you're mad about your cheap stuffed panda that was soiled with urine. Like, I was like, I can't believe the nerve of some people. So that's right. I mean, 7 of the 8, phenomenal. That lady, I want to punch in the mouth. But yeah, it was.
So do you think Redneck is everywhere and it's not just in the South?
We were. Extreme everything is everywhere.
There you go.
You know what it is? I mean, because like in comedy and show business, I remember I quote Lisa Simpson said once on The Simpsons, "You'll never go broke playing to the lowest common denominator," and you have to, like, when you play to the extreme of anything, extreme redneck, extreme whatever, white trash, extreme religious, extreme black, extreme, Mexican, whatever, you're probably going to overdo it, and you're going to play to the lowest common denominator. Because the thing is anybody who's genuine and who's intellectual on some degree, there's gray areas everywhere. So you're not to the extreme of anything. I
agree.
Same thing down in Atlanta?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. It's that mentality. Like, you can go to Australia and it's there, Yeah. I was shocked being from Georgia and go to Northern California to San Francisco and leave San Francisco and run into Rednecks.
Yeah. You'd be amazed in California. Once you go out of the cities, it becomes deliverance. Yeah. It like really is. I remember, like, it's funny because Byron, you grew up in Atlanta, and I remember, like, we had a situation in Toledo that, like, I was so offended by, and he just laughed at, he was so, because I was like, he was so, you were used to it, like, I remember, because it was like, I did a bit, like, because, Byron talks about, racial topics, and he talks about slavery in his act. So I usually, when I come up after him, I talk about that myself, how, like, I would watch a History Channel documentary where they did reenactments of slavery, and I was like, I was like, how desperate are these white actors for work? that like you would like I just can't imagine. I'd be a mess on the set playing like the whip guy, like the director would be like cut, and I'd be like, I am so sorry, dude. I didn't write any of this. I'll buy you lunch. And like I remember I said that, and then after the show, we're taking pictures with people like from the show, and this lady and her husband come up to me, and they said they were big fans of mine, and they said that they said she kind of comes close to me, and she's like, you shouldn't feel bad about slavery because, they're they were slaves in Africa. Their masters just sold them to our masters. And I'm like, well, I think those guys were wrong too. So I don't think that makes it okay. And so I remember I went back to my hotel and I just sat there in my hotel just like having an argument with this lady in my head for the next hour. Like, it really bothered me that she actually would say that to me. And so the next night I go to Byron, I'm like, and we were like, I said, you wouldn't believe this couple came up to me, and he's like, I think I know the couple you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, but they didn't say to you what they said to me. And I told him that she told this to me, and he's like, yeah, she said the same thing to me. And I'm like, aren't you outraged? And he's like, no.
We got into a discussion. Like, I'm like, yeah, that really did happen. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I was like, we gotta go. I don't know. We gotta go protest somehow. I mean, I don't want to get up early or anything, but we gotta go protest. And he was like, it happens all the time. What? I grew up with it. And I'm like, no, that's a bunch of crap. And yeah, it's amazing. Like, he's more desensitized to it. I was more offended by white people being racist than he was. Maybe it's because I feel like, you feel that embarrassment of like, I don't want to feel like those people represent me. Your views don't represent my views, and it's like I feel like we're gonna get lumped together somehow. So it's like, I guess it's like maybe he just is just used to it and doesn't take it personally because they don't represent him.
Now the argument's in your head. Is that the reason why Ohio it seems to be screwing up every election? It seems like everything's gone. Well, there's Ohio. We're going to wait till Ohio votes.
The big swing state. Huh? Like,
what the hell's up with you guys up there?
I wasn't aware of it until, I moved away in 1999.
That could be a good thing.
Yes. Right before everything, like, Ohio started messing everything up. Like, it was like, between Ohio and Florida, they really were, they were really getting... And I remember after that, with 2004 election, people were coming to me like, hey, what's up with your state? I'm like, I've lived here for 5 years. It's not my state anymore. I don't control the voting there. I never even registered. So, but I remember 2004 was the only time I ever registered actually to vote. And all I got out of it was George Bush and jury duty. So I didn't vote again for a while. I was dissuaded. Yeah, I ran from the vote.
Now, Byron, you being from Atlanta, I've been in Charlotte for 28 years, and we have been so jealous of Atlanta. Forever and ever and ever. Charlotte's the next Atlanta. Do you guys down in Atlanta ever go, I wish Charlotte would just shut the hell up?
Actually, we really don't hear anything you all saying. We're too busy doing great things. It's hard to hear, when you're on top of the mountain, it's hard to hear people at the base screaming.
You were just complaining about Atlanta 2 hours ago.
Well, I am, but that's just, that's like we on a whole different level now. You're on the mountain with me.
I hear you.
We're peeing off the side of the mountain on to Charlotte, onto these other places, so we could complain.
Oh, okay,
man, it's cold up here, huh?
That'll go over. That'll sell a lot of tickets for Charlotte. Is when you tell them how much better Atlanta is.
Well,
But no, I didn't know there was a competition.
Me neither.
Oh man, very second those Hawks come into town, man. Those Panthers.
Oh yeah, well.
Oh my God.
Well, that's. But I give Charlotte credit. This is like, I think I haven't been here in so long, and for me to land after the storm, and it was a beautiful city, and some beautiful women here, man. that I'm just excited to be here. You know, as a single black man with no kids, disease free and funny.
Is this a personal ad for you now?
This is for us. Really? I'm trying to sell tickets.
You're trying to sell Byron is what you're trying to do. Okay, I mean, and I'm uncomfortable because as a white married fat man who wouldn't have these options, I didn't even need to say married because you know what? I didn't have any options anyway. So just come to the show and laugh because that's what you're gonna get out of it and maybe you'll get some sex appeal from Byron, I guess. But me, not so much. I'm not worried about that.
Between the two of you, are there any comedians that you're getting tired of being compared to? Because you guys, it's like music. Everybody's compared to people in the past. Oh, you sound like Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Oh, are you guys getting tired of being compared to people?
Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
I seethe every time and it's one of those things like I've never met him.
But he's a character, and you're not.
Right.
This is genuinely you.
Right. My name, if you look at my driver's license, is John Caparulo, and who I am on stage, you know, it's probably an amped up, louder version of me, but it's me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I hate to sound like, you know, because I have nothing against Larry, Dan, whatever you would call it, Larry the Cable Guy. Because I've heard he is such an incredibly nice man, mm-hmm. and I think he's done very well for himself, and that is great. But it was one of those things that like I did like it was called Blue Collar: The Next Generation, and for me it was just another opportunity to be on TV. Mm-hmm. But you know, to me it's like I didn't want to be thought of as something that I'm not, which is. It's not a shtick. It's not like something that I concocted or made up. I don't want people to think that there's anything ingenuine about what I'm doing. You know, that I'm playing some sort of character. That you know, I'm making all this up. It's all based in it's reality. It's who I am, and you know, I just that's one thing. It's like I just don't like being thought of in terms of like I'm like. You know, because people who know me are like, why would they compare you to? You're nothing like. I mean, because it's like I grew up in small town Ohio, so I love like fishing and muscle cars, but I also like Tupac and Air Jordans, and like I'm kind of an eclectic. Like I said, there's gray areas. You know, when you're really honest. There's a lot of gray areas.
And don't you think that Tupac and real hip hop, in reality, is the real true country music?
Those are I remember a friend of mine said that to me before. There's two forms of music that you cannot fake, or they will sniff you out. is hip hop and country.
Absolutely.
If you don't walk the walk, they will find out eventually that you're full of garbage.
I never knew that. I never knew that.
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
No, because me being a rap fan, I never, like, I can't imagine, like, country people getting, like, they chain snatched or getting shot at, because...
Well, I don't know if there's
gunfights. Beer cans, that's still getting shot at.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, but I mean, like, it's country music, kind of like in rap. Like, okay, like, when 50 Cent was all over Ja Rule, about, like, he's a fake gangster.
Yeah.
Country music singers will be like, look, that guy is,
Well, look what Darius had to prove. He had to prove that he was a country singer, and now when you go back and you listen to Hootie, damn, dude was doing country even with Hootie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I mean. It's like, you really have to genuinely embody that art form to pull it off for a long period of time. And it's the same thing with, like I said, hip hop and country are like that, where it's like you can't be playing an act, because if you're playing an act, you will be found out. And comedy is the same way. Yeah. It's like
there
eventually.
Are a lot of fake comedians out there?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. That's. Really? I mean, because I think there's a section of the population who wants to laugh. But does not want their sensibilities to be infringed upon. So if they basically create a market for a lot of bad comedy, because there's a lot of guys out there who will go up on stage and who will ignore all the elephants in the room, who will be, dishonest and play a role and go up on stage and just spout kind of a bunch of really politically correct crap that, that people are genuine. They know isn't really honestly how he feels or honestly how things are, but he's not offending anybody. So he's good for a cruise ship. He's good for, whatever. Like there's just a certain fan base who, look, please don't say anything bad about this. Don't say anything. Don't cuss. Don't ignore all these things that exist in the world and pretend they're not there and try to do a comedy show from that.
Have they tried to do that to you, Byron, as you're coming up and they try to say you can't do this? Because even as spinning music in clubs and stuff, it was amazing how many club owners shut me down on different styles of music. Do they do the same thing to you?
Yeah, as a up and coming comic, yeah. But as you grow as an artist and that you find your voice or your point of view, and I had to realize like, oh, this is the type of person I am. Through even off stage, growing up, I always been like, kind of edgy or talked about the pink elephant in the room. They'd be like, shh. I'm like, no, this is, you don't see that? I can't.
Yeah.
Give me a whooping. I'll take the spanking because I'm talking about this.
And that's what I'm saying about, like, it's sort of also earning that level of honesty with your audience, because it's like, I still feel like, to me, on a nightly basis, now I'm having more of my fans come to shows who are fans of mine, but there are still, a section of the audience who isn't that familiar with me. So I'm still introducing myself to them. So there's certain boundaries, you just, you can just keep pushing the envelope. I guess the more famous you get and the more license they give you to do that. So that's what, for me, like it's when you see the really great comics, the Louis C.K.'s and Chris Rock's and now Bill Burr, we were talking about, is really coming into his own. It's like the guys who are really great, it takes a long road, and it really is they're honest, they're who they are, and they don't shortcut, and if you're dishonest, you can shortcut your way to whatever, fame and fortune, I guess, if you want. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was like, I just wanted to be good at this, and that's the most important thing to me still on a nightly basis, is I come away and I feel like that audience loved my show.
Example to what he's saying, you can't be a 21-year-old comic talking about politics.
Right.
Because you haven't lived it yet?
No, you only voted once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Imagine being a 46-year-old man watching a 21-year-old comic talk about the politics, life, the world. You don't know anything, son. You need to live to be able to have that kind of license to talk about.
That's like watching these young broadcasters come in here and tell me how to do radio, and you're looking at them going, dude, you haven't spoken to a listener yet. What the hell do you know?
Yeah,
what
nothing.
do you know?
Exactly.
There's an art form to it.
Yeah, there's. I think in everything, whether it's your field, our field. I always see it with the best athletes, the best artists in anything. There has to be, adversity and ups and downs and things that they overcome that make them. You have to have talent to begin with,
right?
But in order to make that talent really soar, there has to be some sort of, adversity that you've overcome. Like, that's why, we were talking about the NBA earlier. Like, I don't think, like the NBA players, I think across the board, they're just so coddled from an early age that they don't really have a chance to have that adversity. Like, like Michael Jordan being told, being cut as a sophomore and being told he wasn't ever going to amount to much as in the NBA and stuff like that. Like, Larry Bird and, dropping out of Indiana and going to, work for the street department in French Lick. That doesn't happen anymore,
right.
With great players. And it's the same thing with art or music or anything. It's like, you got to live a life. You really got to live a life.
And don't you think that's the reason why Kobe really isn't going to be that great star? Even though he's a great scorer, he's setting records, it doesn't seem like he has really paid the price of pain.
Yeah. I think that I think it's evolved more and more. I thought Kobe, I started to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit because I was a huge Michael Jordan fan.
Yeah,
like if I could say that I adhered to any religion, it would probably be the Church of Michael Jordan in the 90s because I loved. I mean, I watched.
You know, he
game.
lives here, right?
Does he?
Yes,
I know.
He does.
Yeah. But I mean, I learned so. I gravitated so much to his approach to his profession and life and everything like that. How he kind of used. He even invented adversity in his head just to drive him. And the thing is like, you know, guys, the guys now, they kind of don't have, like, Kobe Bryant kind of, he obviously took his game from Jordan, but Kobe Bryant is still kind of the only player left that I see in the league that he really takes it personally. Mm-hmm. Like, he'd rather die than lose, but still, he's still not as, you know, like, if it's laughable to me to think of like 1995 Michael Jordan playing against any Kobe Bryant because it's just he would just overwhelm him because he's just too much of a man for that guy.
Yep.
And then LeBron James, it's like becoming. it's like he was. I mean, he was Jesus Shuttlesworth basically from He Got Game. It's like he was. You can't crown a kid at 15 and expect him to really become, you know, to really maximize his talent. And that's what the thing is for him is like at the end of a game when it's, you know, it's 99-98 with a few seconds to go. It's not life or death for him. Yeah. And understandably, because it never had to be, you know, whereas for a guy like Jordan, it did. And that's why I still like the NFL because the NFL still has those guys because, you know, when it comes down to the draft, they don't know. Tom Brady's living proof of that. Yep. Aaron Rodgers is living proof of that. Drew Brees, guys like that, you know, they come out of nowhere, you know, and they become superstars. So that's what, you know, it takes, I think adversity is very important. You don't enjoy it while it's happening, but adversity is important.
That made me think of the guy who invented the game. He was the first one out there playing by himself.
Oh, that's right. Wasn't it a basket?
Yeah.
Did he just happen to hang up there?
You know, the ladder. He didn't even think of a net, you know, at the time. Like, it was.
They out there smoking cigarettes. Like, man, this man crazy. Man.
Dude must be really bored to be doing that thing. All right, final question for both of you. Did you send a resume to Saturday Night Live and why? If answer yes or no, why?
Do you want to?
I've gotten submissions for me to send stuff in. I haven't did it.
Really? Why?
One, I don't do characters, and that show to me, I mean, I feel like I'm way too much for that show. Even if I do a character, it's just gonna be way too edgier for what Saturday Night Live can actually show. You know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same thing for me. I never even thought of myself in those terms, you know. And I grew up. I loved Eddie Murphy was really my first favorite comedy idol, but I never thought of myself as a guy who, I don't play because that's what they do for their auditions. I have some friends who have auditioned for SNL who've gotten pretty deep into the auditions, where you go to New York and you have 3 or 4 characters that you do, plus celebrity impressions, you know, that you're able to do, and you do it for them, you know, in front of, you know, an empty theater. And I don't do any of that. I play one character, and it's this guy. Like, I really am. If you're hiring somebody to play, you know, fat 37-year-old married white guy, I'm your who's angry about everything. Probably, I'm the guy. But other than that, I'm nobody's. I don't have a big arc of what I can do as far as as far as characters and acting. Nobody's hiring me to cry.
Yeah.
So I never even thought about SNL as like an option for me,
Excellent. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming in, man. Thank you.
Very good talk,
Innovation.
man.
Wow.
Very good talk.
Look at that.